Are you ready to run a half marathon? Half marathon training. Are you prepared to go the distance? Are you up for the challenge? Running a half marathon is no easy task. It requires commitment, dedication, and a whole lot of training. But the feeling of crossing the finish line is absolutely incredible. So, are you prepared to go the distance? Let's find out. Welcome to episode 193 on the Healthy Runner podcast, where we help you get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury-free running. I have Coach LaToya Felton from our Healthy Runner coaching team with me here today to tackle this topic. Coach LaToya, what's going on? How are you doing today?
Hi, guys. Hi, Dwayne. I am well. I'm thrilled to talk running. That's what I love to do. So let's talk about it, shall we?
We shall, indeed. And if you don't mind, letting all the new listeners in our audience kind of know who you are, where you call home, and tell us why you love running or why you love being a run coach.
All right. Well, I got a lot to cover there. Let's see if I can do it. So, Coach LaToya Felton. I live here in Wallingford, Connecticut. The local Farmington Greenway trails and streets have been my stomping ground for quite a while, hitting the streets and running lots of miles with friends, with family for the past few years. And I love running because it keeps me sane. I call myself a busy mom runner. When it was my daughter, it was coaching cheerleading and handling running and work. Now that I have my son, I've got Boy Scouts, I've got volunteer work, I've got coaching, I've got life, I've running. So I am busy and I figure out how to make it all work. And I want to be able to help all those people looking to start running a half marathon, a race, a 5K, whatever it is, figure it out. And that's what I love about being a run coach. Being a run coach helps me take all those, I can't get it in, I can't make it happen, I don't have the time, I don't have the skills, and say, stop, take a breath. You certainly do. And I'm going to be right here along the way with you to say, hey, that's a win. Here's a pocket. You can do it here. You can do it there. And before you know it, someone is crossing the finish line, 13.1 miles, 5K, whatever it is their goal is. I'm helping them achieve that because it's one of the things I love to do is help people find ways to make it happen. And you can make it happen.
Yes, and you do help so many make it happen. I know we are kind of halfway through or past the halfway mark with our half marathon group coaching training program that you lead right now. And yeah, they are just crushing the training, getting it done, putting the work in.
Oh, they are.
And they're getting ready for their fall half marathon, right?
So they are absolutely getting ready. We have, 14, 15 athletes. I don't remember. I've got so many runners, and I'm so excited for all of them to be over 8 weeks in. Long runs are done. Tempo runs, if you're ready for them, easy runs are going through. And I've seen progress from all of the athletes, whether they were first time, never run a half marathon, signed up 8 weeks in, they're feeling confident and strong. I've got some seasoned people in there. This is for all levels. We do this a couple times the year, and it's two of my favorite times of the year to do it is to see everybody run strong and get together. One person that comes to my mind with this training program, this 8-week session right now, is Neil. Neil is a fast twitch guy. He has run 5Ks when he was in high school, all the way up into adulthood. I'm not giving away his age, into adulthood. And and he wasn't sure that he was going to run 13 miles. That was long and slow, and he had to do it a little slower than he's used to. I can tell you this is his second go around with a half marathon. He is now working in tempo runs and crushing them because he's running properly for his long distance runs in the week and his long run. And he's hitting those tempo runs strong and invigorating, and seeing that he can do both the fast and the easy effort pace and how they marry well together. So kudos to you, Neil, for trusting the process, trusting you. And I can't wait to see how all of the athletes do, Neil and everyone else, when they finish their fall race, half marathons, coming up 4 short weeks. I'm rooting for you guys. I'm right here to help you all along the way.
Yeah, they're doing awesome, and it was great to see Neil at the New Haven Road Race that we were at, and he absolutely crushed his relay, getting some negative splits there, and yeah, and he's training only for his second half marathon, and he's doing a wonderful job, and I just love seeing the progress within that group. As well. And I guess I should probably mention for those that are tuning into this episode and want to figure out really if they are ready to run a half marathon or if they should be running the half marathon that they signed up for, then you definitely want to make sure you check out episode 191 on the Healthy Runner podcast that I talked with Coach Whitney about like 5 half marathon training mistakes to avoid. Because if you haven't listened to that one yet, you'll also get some really good information on that episode. So just kind of linking that in. But as Coach LaToya and I were messaging each other today about what we were going to talk about, Coach LaToya shared this kind of framework for you to think about as you're considering, should you be running this half marathon or should I sign up? Maybe you've been like secretly training, right? And you're like, do I sign up for this half marathon in a couple weeks, next month, 6 weeks away? And Coach LaToya really thought of this in like a framework of like red light, yellow light, green light. Right. I think like, I don't know, when I was a kid, did you ever play like
Yes,
red light, green light, 1, 2, 3?
absolutely. Yes.
I like use that for my college students and they look at me like I have 10 heads. They're like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Dude, you're so old. Right. Like they're probably saying in their head. So I'm glad I could actually mention that reference. And I'm sure a lot of the podcast listeners can probably have a little chuckle and be like, oh yeah, I remember playing that game when I was a kid. Like when we actually used to play outside and not like on a video game or just like TikTok and Snapchat, our friends when we were teenagers. So yeah, if you don't mind, let's get right into today's topic of, just because this is a common question that we get a lot. And I hear a lot of runners kind of struggle with this. And sometimes, honestly, quite frankly, we see a lot of runners after the fact when they perhaps made the wrong decision and maybe they got injured and maybe they just had a terrible race and then they seek out coaching. And I'm glad that they're looking for guidance now and they want to do it the right way. But maybe they should have not run the half marathon. And that's really fits into this kind of red light classification. Is that correct?
I think that's absolutely right. And I think you've got a good point is that red light. Sometimes people don't realize we have to turn those red lights into lessons and we don't realize that till afterwards. And as long as we don't repeat the things we're going to talk about, then we don't have to ever talk about those red lights again. And they're lessons and we learn from them and we grow. And every race is different, just like every run is different. Every day of training is different based on so many things. As long as we recover and learn from these red light points, then it makes you all the smarter of a runner. It really does. It sets yourself up for success for the next one. And we want you to have the mindset to want to run more, really.
I love it. And it's part of learning, right? It's a learning journey and you're not learning if you're not making mistakes. And I just love how you said that it's only a problem is if you repeat the same mistake again, right? So we're here to kind of hopefully correct those mistakes, right? And so you don't repeat those mistakes. So what are some of the considerations that would be a red light for you that you would really probably recommend someone actually not run? Like we're all for running here, right? Like, look at the medals, right? Like we love the half marathon distance, right? It's like, I've shared this before. It's my favorite distance. It's the most races I've ever done. I want as many people to run half marathons, but there are circumstances that maybe you shouldn't actually run this half marathon and wait. What are those conditions or situations?
So I am not going to shoot anybody down from running. I'm going to have you reframe it and make it a goal that's right for you and attainable and right where you're at. But some of these red lights are almost non-negotiables in my opinion. And I guess we could go down the rabbit hole. But if we went down that rabbit hole, the outcome wouldn't be the same as if we just stopped, took a breath, and made a better decision to move for the next race or the next run or whatever it is. So a red light for me is, I really think, less than 12 weeks of training. We have some of those spur of the moment people who are like, I just saw a half marathon the next town over. I'm going to hop on. I've got 4 weeks to get ready for it. Not going to happen. You can run that race. It won't be pretty. And I'd like to think your perspective and potential for injury is going to be so large, it's going to keep you from running another race real soon. Just the rehab alone, if you do get injured, keeps you down. If you had just said, all right, I'm not going to run this race in 4 weeks. I'm going to run the one in 12 weeks from now, because there's always going to be another race. There are thousands of races. Pick the town, pick the hills, destination. Doesn't mean 4 weeks, only half marathon to run. Stop and find a better choice. Nope. I think it's important to realize time is on your side. You need time. You need your body to acclimate to things. And in my opinion, the base building, the training, and the long runs, and then the tapering are so crucial. If you're not getting that, you're missing some things for your body and your mind. Absolutely, your mind. It's a mind game out there, especially when you're not trained properly.
All right. So if we haven't been consistently running essentially for at least a 12-week period, we don't want to jump in a half marathon race, even if we've done half marathons years ago. You used to always do half marathons. You ran a bunch of half marathons in your 20s, and maybe now you're post baby, right? Maybe you've taken some years off and you're like, you know what? I got to get back, in my fitness. I got to get back in my health goals. Maybe I need to lose a little weight. And you know what? Let me just sign up for this half marathon. And it turns out you've really been really inconsistent with your training, or maybe you only got like 5 weeks of running in consistently. So you're saying it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. Don't run the half marathon.
Absolutely not. Time is your friend when it comes to running, and we need to be patient. That's what I mean. Part of being a runner is harnessing and disciplining yourself to be patient. It's so much more enjoyable when you work for it and you long for it, and that time comes. It's gonna feel totally different 4 weeks in to jumping into a half marathon versus 12 weeks into training. Minimum of 12 weeks. You might need more. Depends on where you are and how things really go. But you really need to have time. I've seen people just sign up for races, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty. The injuries happen. I mean, that's one way to really put yourself behind the eight ball is to run without proper training. You need time on your feet.
All right. So what other things are kind of stop, do not pass, go, where you're not going to actually run the race and it's a red light?
Major red light is our joints, joint pain, joints sharp, numb, tingling after the long run, during the long run. They get worse after the long run. If you have major joint pain and that race is close by, then we have to stop and we have to say, hey, I've got to think about the big picture plan, the long range plan, because once that joint is compromised, one, I have rehab. Two, I have the mental frustration of the pain, of the hurt, maybe even regret. I knew I shouldn't have run, but I wanted to anyway. That major joint pain can snowball into so many bigger problems. It really does. And it's not supposed to suck when you run. You're not supposed to be in gut-wrenching pain. And if that's the case, then I think we need to reevaluate your strategy. If you had one, we don't want to. I want you to keep coming back for more. And any kind of joint pain that's exacerbated during your training is not just going to go away on race day. You shouldn't push through it. Don't push through it. Get what you need. Take the time. Back off from the race. Heal yourself. And then go back at it again so you can come back at it again. Because that might be a one and done for you, really. If you hurt yourself poorly enough, you may not want to come back. You may get frustrated from the pain, from the rehab, from all of that. And there goes your running. And you loved it, right? You had such a good time. Be smart with it. Seek counsel, medical counsel. And see, is this something I can continue on? How should I continue? And then get a game plan. I mean, you can turn to a running coach, turn to a physical therapist or an orthopedist or a doctor who has a sports mindset, which is different than some of our doctors today. We want to find someone that's going to not just tell you to stop running, and some will because they're not fully on the same page, but stop before you get to that point where you have to go and seek medical care because you're limping around all day. Not worth it.
Yeah, I obviously couldn't agree more. And this is something actually I just onboarding a new client just before we hopped on this recording. And, some of the variables that I was asking him with hamstring pain specifically was, what is your pain level during your run? And then, okay, how long did it last after your run? And if your pain's lingering right after your run for hours and or days, like, yeah, no, you should not be running a half marathon race. And especially if your pain levels are above a 4 out of 10 pain, if you had to rate it on a scale from 0 to 10, right? Those are some of the kind of red flag items that, yeah, you're probably, it's not going to do your best interest of really running this race right now. And maybe we need to reframe your goals and think about, no, you don't maybe necessarily need to stop running, right? Depending upon the injury, all of that, those variables you mentioned, but let's back off some of your training, allow your body to get healthy and heal with the right strategies to address that injury, like you said. And then we can build up and, go to run and live another day and enjoy lifelong injury-free running versus force the issue. I need to run this half marathon this fall because I always do it every year, or I haven't run it in so long. My friend's running it, and or I'm turning 40, and or I'm turning 50, and I need to run this race because I said I would do it. Yeah, if you got this major injury going on, I would agree. It's a red light for me. Any other variables that you would recommend to not run the half marathon race?
Absolutely. Sometimes we have such a myopic view of things and we've got to do it and we have to do it now. We lose sight of the big picture. And when you have a big picture in mind, it's easier to see the end. If you're taking advantage and using a run coach and your run coach says, not a good idea, against my advice strongly, you can do what you want to do, but I don't think it's a good idea. Respect that. You're coming to that coach for their expertise, for their insight, for their knowledge, for their idea and ability to keep the big picture focused, because we do get myopic when we're training. Got to get the runs in, got to get the miles. Oh, the salt tabs and the goos, got to focus. And we forget sometimes the big picture. And that coach has your best benefit at hand. And if they say no good, they're not doing it to punish you. They're not doing it because they want to see you sad. They're doing it because they want to see your success. And that happens by being disciplined and trusting yourself and trusting the people you trusted to get you there. So that's a big one. If someone that you respect says don't do it, and someone who knows what they're doing, not just your mother or your grandmother, oh, you're running too hard, baby, don't do that, you're going to hurt yourself. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about somebody who's got the understanding of training plans and of you and how you run. Please really consider not running. We want you to come back for more and more and more, and you may not. It's definitely not worth it.
It's amazing how many of our clients probably like the most the greatest benefit we can have sometimes is protecting them from being their own worst enemy.
True.
Right? There's so many runners that overdo it.
Yeah.
They know, and they'll even, admit it and say, like, I'm my own worst enemy. You know what? I'm finally relinquishing control, and you are the expert in this area. And okay, I'm offloading this to you. I will follow your directions. Like, that's sometimes one of the best things you can do. And just like you said, getting the objective view and not having that subjective emotional decision making of it's you and yourself. Like, yeah, if you're working with a run coach, like, listen to their advice, right? Like, they're going to give you that objective view and really have your best interest in mind for the long run. pun intended there, right? Not just for, the race. So I would agree. If coach says to not run that race, then you should probably listen to coach.
I agree wholeheartedly with that one. And, I've had to be on the delivering end of some of that bad news to say, listen, I'm going to be here for you if you run this race, but I can tell you it's not going to go well. It's not. I'm not Susie Sunshine. I'm not playing Pollyanna. Here's why it's not going to go well. And it wasn't comfortable for either of us to hear and handle. But I delivered that information because I saw the big picture. I had the big picture in mind, and they were just so focused. And this athlete has absolutely come to the reckoning that, all right, I respect what you say. I respect my body enough to stop and slow down. Let's reframe. Let's build back up. Let's keep going. Thank you for having my back. So those red lights are not red lights forever. I mean, we've sat at the traffic lights. We're like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Why is it not turning to green? Let's go. So if we don't listen and respect ourselves, the body, and the perspectives, then that red light never changes to a green light. So, and green lights are ahead. I promise. It's not all red lights.
Oh, I love that analogy. I love it. I love it. Yes, it doesn't last forever. And those conversations are the difficult conversations, right? And I hate telling an athlete that. But I'm going to be honest with them and tell them, like, I'm in this for your long-term health. And like when we work with athletes in our program, we tell them first and foremost, we want you to enjoy running forever, not just run for this particular race. Right. And, we don't kind of market our services or say like, hey, we're going to get you your PR for X half marathon, right? It's not only about the time on the clock and you're just trying to run this. Like, we want you to actually embrace the dedication, consistency, the enjoyment of running, and be able to enjoy all of the positive benefits of running for many, many years to come, like long after you're not working with us. Right. So those conversations are difficult, but I think when we're honest, and, I could think of an athlete that Coach Cat just had this conversation with as well. And it is for the better. And there will be another half marathon. And like you said, that red light is not going to be stuck at a red light forever. It will eventually turn green. I love it. Any other red light items that you would really recommend someone to not run the half?
So I think that we segued really nicely into something I wanted to talk about is you know what? You've got to love what you're doing. You have to enjoy the process. Training shouldn't suck. It shouldn't be miserable. You shouldn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some runs are hot and sweaty and they're just miserable and you don't like it. That's not what I'm talking about. But you shouldn't have dread for the training. You shouldn't have dread for the long runs or the entire process. And the thought of crossing 13.1 start line 5K, whatever you're building up to, but your 13.1 here is, you should be excited. You should want to do it. And if you have anger or stress or frustration, then your big picture isn't you're not seeing the big picture of it. And maybe this isn't for you. So that red light is never going to change to green. It's never with that mindset, because maybe you shouldn't be doing it. And maybe you shouldn't be running that right now. Maybe now is not your season or your chapter. Doesn't mean forever, but you have to be able to do it. No one wants to have 13.1 miles ahead of them and absolute dread and frustration and anger. Why am I doing this? You have to have the right why. And that's individual. The half marathon distance is so personal. It's so individual. You have to have your reason. And if you're running because your sister wants you to run a race with her, or the guy you're dating thinks it's a good idea and you hate running, but he's really cute and you think you should do it anyway, that's wrong. Wrong reason. Don't do it. I know people. These are real life cases, guys. I'm not just making this up. It's just not worth it. You're going to become resentful to the run, resentful to other people. And that's just not what you want. We want lifelong running. We want happiness. We want you to see the benefits, and the benefits of training and running absolutely touch every facet of your life when you do it right. And when you do it wrong and you shouldn't be doing it, those benefits they're not benefits. Those effects touch every part of your life. From you being nasty to the barista at Starbucks, to snapping at a coworker, to not being kind to your child or your partner. It really, let's get the perspective right. Maybe you shouldn't be running, and that's okay. Find a different time to do it, regroup, but love it. Love what you're doing, or don't do it. Yeah, you shouldn't hate it.
Yeah, so Coach LaToya, guys, is really talking about that mindset bucket, right? And our 6 steps to growing as a runner, and just having that proper why you are training or about to run this half marathon, and just, not being resentful and dreading every single run that you're going out there for. So I love that. All right. So if I can kind of, I believe, summarize just, the things that is going to be a red light, if you're questioning whether or not you should run this half marathon, if you're having major injury, major joint pain, definitely don't run it. If you haven't trained consistently for at least 12 weeks, definitely don't run it. No jumping into a race like 2 weeks out and be like, oh, let me run a half marathon. And actually, that actually brings up a thing I heard is like, it's kind of a trending thing on TikTok, apparently. I'm not on TikTok, but, it's like people is just to jump in half marathons or marathons and just to like say they're cool and they did it. Again, what's the purpose? If just because you see, and I guess the biggest problem I have with that is not the fact that people want to just kind of do audacious goals and like accomplish them. I think it is people seeing stories of that and normalizing that behavior and thinking to themselves, well, if they did it, I can do it too. Absolutely. And if they did it, that means it's right. Right. So I think we can see that in many social contexts of our world today. It doesn't mean it's right if someone did do it. So I guess that's my only issue with it, is people doing that. Or if your coach says not to run the race and they really feel strongly about you not running this race. And then if it's really making, the training for it, thinking about running the race is just making you like resent running and it's stressing you out more than anything, or you're getting like angry, then don't run the race. Did I hit all the points that you mentioned?
Love it. You got them all. Yes, you did.
All right. I'm a good note taker here.
Listen to my talk. Finally, someone does.
If someone's not going to run the race, what does that mean? Or if someone was maybe questioning and they were signing up for a half marathon, are there things that they can do to minimize the pain of having to cancel and not run a race?
So there are some things that we can do. We can defer the race. We have my mascot. I have to just say it. We have a dog in the background. Our Spark unofficial mascot.
There we go.
Is clearly ready to attack. And maybe you guys have seen him on a podcast or not. Maybe you haven't. It's my 4-pound Chihuahua. Yes, I have a 4-pound Chihuahua in the background barking. This is real life with Coach LaToya on a podcast, guys. Disrupting the flow. This is why I run, to run off the crazy. The 4-pound dog thinks he's going to attack the dog outside. Sorry, guys. All right. That was not part of the plan, but sometimes that happens in life and we adjust and pivot.
Just like we have to adjust and pivot in training, right? This is real talk with Coach LaToya.
Who would have thunk? Yes. Thank you, my 4-pound Iliano. Not
so we were talking about possibly deferring a race, right? Like, so you might not only need to like cancel, lose all your money, you can actually defer to next year perhaps, or even if that race company has another race, maybe they would let you run their other half marathon that's maybe in a different season, right?
So yeah, I mean, because you've got a red light doesn't mean life is over. Again, we're pivoting, we're adjusting, we're coming back. Defer your race. Maybe it's not a deferral you need. Maybe it's a drop down, and the 13.1 isn't right for you, but the 10K is. or maybe it's the 5K. So we still get the level of engagement. We still get the run in. You still feel accomplished, and you still were able to complete that. So the deferral is definitely an option, and the deferral buys you time, and that's what we need when we're training. We need time. Look to a race out. Get the bang for your money. If you get the bang for your buck, if you can defer, that's the right thing to do. So some people who sign up for races also consider this is something new now. I don't think they had this when I first started running race insurance.
Oh yeah, it's like the new thing now.
It is the new
Every single
thing.
race, no matter what distance.
So, yeah, no matter what the distance, exactly. You can tack on a few extra dollars, read the fine print. It doesn't get you out of the race because you broke a fingernail, but it does, give you your money back, or again, guarantee that you get to defer it or move it through to another a race. There are some stipulations with each insurance provider's race day insurance. So read the fine print before you pay the $5, $10, $15, $25, whatever it is that you may not use. But if there's a chance that you may not run that race, the insurance is for you. You have, I don't know, I can personally think I thought I wasn't going to be able to run the Hartford Half Marathon a year before last when my mom was sick. Was I going to have to be in the hospital with her? That would be one reason. If I have some uncertain timelines ahead of me, travel for work, that's a big one that I would be considering. If I'm not sure if I travel and I'm going to be out of state or out of town, maybe I don't want to lose my money. I'm going to put the insurance on it and take my chances. I'm still going to train, but I'm not going to just call it a loss. The only thing with the insurance is you have to read the fine print, and it's not always weather specific. I mean, we have to have certain weather increments to even qualify for that. But it's an option, so you don't lose your money, still have your skin in the game, and can just buy yourself some additional time to get you out there, get you ready, and keep at it. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to run this race no matter what. I've had every single red light coach LaToya talked about, but I paid $65 for that run, and I'm going to run it because I don't want to lose my money. Not the smartest thing. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, and I would say if someone was considering that, what's the cost of not running for the next 3 months because you're seriously injured, right? Is that worth $65? Like,
talk about those.
You told me I couldn't run for like the next 2 months, right? Or yeah, exactly. If I had to go see a medical provider and either pay my high deductible plan, right, or your copay for treatment, it's gonna be a heck of a lot more than $65, right? So yes, put it in perspective there. So I love it. So it gives us an option, and it doesn't totally have to be such a downer that you hit that, stop sign, do not pass go, do not collect $200.
The red light turned green. Red light turned green because you deferred and took advantage of the insurance and can move it around. So there you go. It wasn't red forever.
All right. So we got that red light scenario where we're not running the race. What is your yellow light scenario where we're really going to move forward with caution? What are some of those things that you think about in terms of like, should I be running this half marathon?
I think the yellow light for me is a lot of mental concern and not so much physical. There is a little bit of physical in there. When I have somebody move with caution, that doesn't mean stop moving. We're just moving with caution. We're paying more attention. And some of those things that make us feel, sometimes we need to get out of our feelings, and that's where a coach can come into perspective and say, hey, you're in your feelings. Nope, you can do this. Or no, you can't do it. Your feelings are right. So some of those would be, you had some illness. You were sick for maybe a week. You missed some of your runs, not all of your, but you can still get your training in. That's still an option. Absolutely. I think people get a little nervous. They're like, oh, I fell back on my training. I was sick for 3 days. I had the stomach bug. It's all right. We'll get you back on the horse. That's not the big picture in 12 weeks. It's really not that bad. And if it's at the end of the race, maybe that's a little bit of a benefit because you're going to have some fresher legs. You needed the time off. I try to spin it around so you don't have to feel as bad. Yes, you should still run the race. if you had a few days of missed runs. Absolutely, you should.
All right. So if we've missed some runs, it's only some runs, right? It's not going to change your total level of fitness and preparedness. And if you're just thinking from a mental standpoint that you're starting to question whether you're ready, right? Or you don't think you're ready, and you're just a little bit anxious about the actual race, then this would be more in the yellow light category.
Absolutely, yellow light. It's not taking anything away from you, and your fitness really doesn't degrade over a couple days off. It's going to take a lot longer than that, and I think you're going to find when you come back from those few days off, you might have a little more pep in your step. Maybe you needed them, and that's your body was telling you some things. So take it and run it up the flagpole. If those days off were beneficial, you're still running and you're feeling good, but you've now got some injuries and aches that are still there, let's reevaluate that again. Maybe we need to look at that. Or maybe we need to say, okay, these aches are there, but I can work through them and they're not getting worse. They're getting better. And I'm this is where a coach comes in. I'm seeking counsel to say, hey, what do you think? Where the coach might say, take an extra day off. But I don't need the extra day off. But you do. It's not the end of the world. We're going to stay ahead of it now so we can stay moving cautiously so we can continue to move forward. But if we don't pay attention, then it turns into that major joint problem. We go back to that red light. We don't want to do that. So again, that's in your head. You take the extra day. Pay attention to the ache. Doesn't mean all is lost and you should stop running. No, let's modify some things. Let's back down. Let's change volume and load and keep you moving forward. And that's all part of the training too.
Right. And yeah, so this is like our minor injury or even our ache and pain, our niggle that we might experience where, yeah, we might need to modify some of your training, but it doesn't mean we need to, bag the race because you've had some Achilles discomfort or because your IT band started hurting for a couple of days, right? It is a matter of, okay, what are we going to do right now? Are we taking a day off? Are we giving you 2 extra rest days? Are we taking away speed work, giving you an easy run? Are we dropping mileage, right? There's so many variables that a run coach can kind of manipulate. Are we starting to implement said exercise for that condition, right? That's where we take some action here and we're proceeding with caution. I like it. It's under the yellow light category. We're being cautious.
And that caution pays off when you don't hyper focus on it. I have some athletes who really hyper focus on certain parts of their body and certain issues. And I'm like, take a breath. It's just part of the training. You just had a heavy leg day on your strength training and you went out and had a midweek long run. You should feel tired. You should feel a little achy after that. You just hit phase 2 in the training cycle. Yeah, you're going to feel a little achy and sore. You can still run. This is not an indicator of whether you can run 13.1 miles, even if it's closer to race day. At the beginning of the training, that makes sense to feel a little nervous, but at the end, it's okay if you still feel a little sore. Doesn't mean all is lost and your training's going downhill. We get into these whirlwinds in our heads sometimes, and we just need to take a breath, regroup, yellow light, we're going to keep moving. Doesn't mean stop. Keep going. Absolutely.
Gotcha. Any other things that you want to add for yellow light items, or do we hit them all?
So the yellow light, one thing is your long runs didn't go like you thought they should. Some of your long runs were horrible. Again, it's part of the training. Not every long run has to be a success. You should feel tired after some of them. You shouldn't feel exhausted and miserable. You should be able to bounce back in a day with that recovery run, maybe 2, depending upon what it is. But that doesn't mean you're not fit for the distance and you just can't handle it. You're too tired after 8 miles or 10 miles. You've got it. Move cautiously forward. You're getting stronger. Trust yourself. Trust the process. You can get through 13.1 miles. Absolutely, you can. Mm-hmm.
All right. So if, some of those long runs didn't go exactly, they didn't feel great. didn't go as planned. Maybe you had to add some walking intervals in there. Maybe your legs felt heavy. Maybe you had some GI discomfort. Maybe, right? There's so many things that
So
can
many.
happen on a long run. Weather was terrible. Dew point was high, right? Like there's so many variables here. But that doesn't mean that you can't run the race, is what you're saying.
You can find so much strength knowing that you survived that poor long run, and the next run was better because you adjusted and you learned from whatever happened in that poor run. Maybe you needed more food before your run. Maybe you needed more fuel or water. Maybe you don't run at 5 o'clock in the morning for your long run. Maybe you have to wait till the afternoon. So we just learn, adjust, pivot, keep moving, not stop. You got that.
All
You got
right.
13.1.
I love it. So yeah, what last category here? Green light. Green means go, right? It's go time.
We
What are
need
the
it.
things that you hear from clients or other runners that they tell you, and maybe they're nervous and they're like, am I actually ready to run this half marathon? Should I run this half marathon? And you're like, psh, of course you are. Like that's a green light item. Like you're going to be totally fine. What are those like variables, and what would you consider kind of green light? And yeah, let's go rock this half.
All right. So you've done your training. You've done your strength training. You've practiced the long run. You've got the sneakers figured out, and you are just sitting there a week out, 2 weeks out, even before your taper. During the tapers, when I usually see this come up, is I'm nervous and I don't think I can do this. I am not sure. You're just uncertain. But if you stop, reflect, and see where you've come from 12 weeks of training, 16 weeks of training, whatever it is that you have, and look forward to fast forward to where you are now, you are absolutely ready. And I'm thrilled you're nervous. I'm thrilled that you're not sure you can do it, because that means you're excited. That means you want this and you want to get after it. If you didn't feel nervous, or if you're a seasoned runner, some people feel less nervous during race day, but if you still didn't feel anxious, or can I really do 13.1? Can I do this? I would tell you, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this race isn't for you. Maybe you want to reevaluate while you're running. If you just were like, it's another 13.1, no big deal, whatever. Then go run your race. That's fine. But I want you to be nervous. I want you to be excited. I want you to have that zest for the calming of everything you've been training for. So if you're feeling nervous, not sure you can do it, you've done what you needed to do in the training, then you're ready. Take those nervous butterflies, harness them, and let them out during the 13.1, and let them out. Not all at once. You don't want to start your first marathon off too fast. That's it. We'll talk about your strategy there with your coach, but let those butterflies go. And I've used that as an analogy. Let the butterflies go slowly during the course. Let them all out and help you cross the finish line.
All right. So even if you're kind of second guessing yourself and just getting some of that pre-race anxiety, some of that is normal, right? And everyone experiences it to a certain degree. Heck, I've definitely been there before. We all experience a certain element, and just knowing that is you actually, it's your body's natural response to you actually getting excited for the event, and not shying away from that, and thinking about, number one, if it is getting excessive, and it is, we've done episodes on kind of race anxiety before and mindset before races. So you can check out those previous episodes on some strategies and really doubling down on some self-care strategies. But it doesn't mean that your training isn't ready for you to tackle the half marathon, right? Like you've put in the body of work, like the hay is in the barn, as they say, and you've put the work in. And if you've done the work, if you've done the strength training, like you mentioned, if you've done the runs, like you've mentioned, if you have a strategy going into the race, and we do have a race day strategy and a blueprint and a freebie that I'll link in the show notes if you don't know this already, on how to actually run a half marathon with the proper strategy, because it is a kind of the sixth step to growing as a runner is actually implementing a smart and effective strategy. So I'll definitely link that in the show notes. But it is just kind of feeling that uncertainty. Like if that's what you're feeling and you're nervous and uncertain, am I going to be able to complete this? Am I going to be able to tackle 13.1 miles? Oh my goodness, I didn't run 13 miles in training. Oh my goodness, maybe you didn't even run a 12 miler in training. Like you will be able to finish the half marathon if you've been doing all the things Coach LaToya said, and you've been training for that 12-week time period. Anything you want to add to that at all?
I think that's the nail on the head. It's just taking all that you've prepped and done and knowing it's coming to fruition makes new runners and seasoned runners all have that same angst. And I think that's something to think about. No matter how seasoned you are as a runner, we still all have those first day jitters, especially if it's a new race you've never run before. It takes you right back to being right where you are as a runner listening to this for your first time prepping for a half marathon. It all comes back and it never goes away, and you never want it to go away because that's your love of running. You're enjoying it, and we want you to do that. And you can just see how strong you are when you cross that 13.1 finish line. The doubt just goes right away. It's there. There's something that just, it depends on what part of the race it is. It just falls away, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really doing this. I'm going to do this. I am doing this. I am doing this. And I did it when you cross the finish line. That is one of the best feelings. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah. So guys, I hope, this was helpful for you. And really what Coach LaToya kind of covered today is helping you in your decision-making process on whether or not you should run this half marathon on your calendar, or you're considering signing up, and providing this like decision-making tree essentially, and making an informed decision and trying to base it on variables such as like training, strength training. Is it nerves? Is it mindset? And really taking those factors into play. And do they fit in kind of the red light where you're going to stop, do not pass go, do not run this race? It will eventually become a green light. Let's just be patient, hold off. Or you know what? You can run this race, but let's provide a little caution here, right? Let's kind of, lean off the gas pedal. Don't have like that, lead foot and like full speed ahead and go. Like, let's take a little caution, maybe take a little step back, modify a couple things, maybe in training, maybe seek out medical professional for something that's kind of starting to be a minor injury, but we could still run that race. Or, you know what? Like, you've put the body of work in and it's the green light scenario. And you know what? Let's proceed forward. Like, you are going to run 13.1 and you are going to feel darn good about it. And you're going to be proud of yourself. And, you're going to make yourself proud, right? And you're doing it for the right reasons. You're doing it for yourself because you wanted to challenge yourself. You wanted to do hard things, and you have the right why. And you're grounded in your approach. You're grounded in your training. You've been putting the work in, and you are ready for this moment. So you can do it, guys. Hopefully, this was helpful. I think this is going to be helpful for many folks in our community, Coach. And thank you for sharing this. And honestly, I never thought of it like that, to tell you the truth. And I just love this framework that you kind of brainstormed and came up with. And if you guys want to hear more, from Coach LaToya and some of her previous trainings, I'm going to link in the show notes all of the previous trainings we've done, so you can get like topics such as mindset, race tapering, marathon training for beginners, how to do the easy run, mastering that. She's done so much, and she does such a wonderful job in our group coaching community. So, depending upon the time of the season you're listening to this, We do usually run twice a year. It's like a open enrollment just for a week, so we only do it twice a year. Our group training for half marathon distance, so it's only specific for the half marathon, and that has been a very successful program, and we've helped many athletes conquer 13.1 or get a PR, right? Run it, feel strong, feel confident, like actually finish strong for their half marathon. So you can check that out on our website, sparkhealthyrunner.com, see if our enrollment is open. But if you're thinking times of the year, typically we will have that open enrollment in January for like an April half marathon, and then also in June, July period for a fall half marathon. So keep us in mind if you're interested in that. And if you're running a half marathon at different times of the year, we always work with athletes, probably like half the athletes that we work with in our one-on-one coaching program are running a half marathon distance. And that's really our signature coaching program, which is really personalized, totally customized to you, your lifestyle, like really provide that support, guidance, and direction on what you need to focus on in your training to be able to crush a half marathon. So if you want to schedule a strategy call with myself, then you can get the link to that in the show notes, and we'll see if you're a good fit to work with Coach LaToya or anyone on our team who is the best fit for you. Or you can just go to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. And then don't forget, guys, download your freebie for your race day blueprint so you can crush your half marathon and have a smart strategy, as well as get your checklist on what you need to bring to the race, as well as your timeline and what you need to do the morning of the race. So you can just take that cognitive, workload off your brain, and you just focus on actually running the race. Coach, thank you so much for coming on today. It is always a blast to chat running and half marathon distances. And I was actually thinking about this. You're probably the person that I've run the most half marathons with.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right? Like we just ran the half together in June. We've run Hartford half together like many times. I think I've definitely done the most half marathon races with you.
I'm going to count. I'm going to figure out how many we have. I'm probably pushing 5, 6, 7, maybe that many. I think so. Maybe 8.
I think we have the most post-race picks together.
That we do.
We have a lot of medal picks. Anything else that you want to share before you hop off?
I'm just so thankful that you guys are listening to this and planning ahead so you don't have to see the red light. You can see those yellow. Yellow is where you're working through. Green light is going to be inevitable if you trust the process, trust the plan, give yourself enough time. You will see 13.1 miles before you know it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's always a blast catching up. Appreciate it. And thank you to the listener, guys. You guys are what make the show happen. You're the reason it's been going 193 episodes is because you actually tune in every week. And you also share the podcast with running friends of yours. So wherever you're listening to this, copy the link, share it, whether you're watching on the Spark Healthy Runner YouTube channel or you're listening on the podcast, on Apple, on Spotify. And we always love the rating and reviews. That means the world to us. It just helps our podcast get pushed out to other runners who are searching for topics just like this, right? And that's what we do. We share a lot of value on this podcast and actionable steps. And if we've helped you at all, that's all we ask is share it with a running friend of yours. That is my ask for you. And I would greatly appreciate that. As always, let's maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and let's just keep on running. Until next time, bye.
Guys, see ya.